Benvenuti alla Casa Italiana Zerilli-Marimò della New York University. My name is Stefano Albertini, I'm the director, and I'm delighted that we have a chance to start the celebrations dedicated to Mario Monicelli here at Casa Italiana. As you know, it's the occasion of the celebration is the retrospective that Film Forum is dedicating to Monicelli, opening on Black Friday, the Friday after Thanksgiving. And I think it goes on until December 11th. Where is Bruce? There is Bruce Goldstein of Film Forum. I would like to take this opportunity, Bruce, to thank you for all you do for Italian cinema. Hardly a week goes by, and we'd love that too, but hardly a week goes by that there is a great Italian film at Film Forum. So it's very important that Italian films continue to be seen in real movie theaters. So we are very appreciative for what you're doing for Monicelli and for what you do for Italian cinema in general. Thank you. Oh, there is the Fellini Cup?
Fellini Ili Cafe.
Okay.
Sponsored by Ili Cafe.
Thank you. And we have the fortune to have a little special treat. We wanted to leave all the screening of the films to Film Forum. Again, it's important that films are seen in movie theaters. But we wanted to offer you something special tonight, to whet your appetite, to increase your interest for Monicelli, to rediscover him. And so we have basically three moments in this evening. The first moment is the small but beautiful exhibit curated by Chiara Rapaccini, who was Monicelli's wife and by his side for 30 years about Chiara. And you see the photographs here and some in the foyer of the auditorium. And you also have two pieces done by Chiara in the lobby. And take a look at them. At the end, we're going to have a little toast, and we're going to have it here. We're going to have some Prosecco there, so you'll be free to walk around the theater and outside and see the photographs and see which films they're from. And look at the beautiful piece that Chiara prepared as soon as you enter. It's like Monicelli is welcoming you here for his homage. Then we have the screening of a short film, about 20 minutes, that was done by Monicelli with Chiara by his side, about their Roman neighborhood, Monti, near the Colosseum. It's in Italian, there are no subtitles, but it's mostly a film about images and sounds. Monicelli says a few words, but it's not about the words. So concentrate on what you see in the images and what you hear in terms of the music, the sounds of reality. And then we're going to have a conversation with Chiara Rapaccini and Lorenzo Codelli, who is a film critic and one of the major experts of Monicelli. And I'll have a conversation with them, but your questions will also be invited. So without further ado, I think we should start with the screening of Vicino al Colosseo, C'è Monti, that is the last film that Monicelli made. And Chiara did not only the end titles and the beginning titles that we'll see in their entirety. Chiara is a very important visual artist in Italy, but she also collaborated to the concept of the film. So take this as the personal Monicelli. It's an homage to his own neighborhood, a neighborhood that was changing when they were shooting the film and is no longer what it used to be. So it's an homage to his most familiar reality within the city of Rome. So enjoy the short film, Vicino al Colosseo C'è Monti, and after that we'll have the Q&A with Chiara and Lorenzo. Thank you. So Chiara, first of all, thank you for having brought to us the exhibit, your works, and this film. And we'll start with the film, even if it's the last thing that Mario Monicelli did. And then we'll go back and the conversation will intersect personal aspects of the life of Mario that you witnessed firsthand, and Lorenzo is going to help us providing a context of the importance of Monicelli within the framework of Italian cinema and more. In this film, there are not many words, as we announced, but it's as if each of the person you meet could become a character in a Monicelli film. There is enough in what you understand, in his gaze on this reality, on this social reality of a place that he loved and knew so well. But in the end title, we see that it was your idea. So how did it come about? How did it start? Who decided to undertake this project?
Good evening to everybody. I will speak English, I try. And if I don't, I have a fantastic interpreter. And thank you to be here in New York with Mario. And thank you to you and to Bruce for the film forum that will start on 28. The idea came very simply. Mario and me lived in this place that you saw. Our house was there. And Mario loved so much that place. He liked so much to live there. You can see the way he films is because he loves the places and, as you said, the people. And so we just say, why don't we shoot something that will remain in the history of Rome? Because after that, Monti, which means mountains in Italian, because Rome is made like this. You know, Rome is many hills. Monti means mountains. Maybe we'll change Rome, and so we want to fix it. And he loved so much this place. He was very old, as you saw. He died after a few years. And so I said, I write a little bit, come si può dire, soggetto? Subject about that. And I made the list of what we had to film. I said, we have to go to the place where they sell chocolate, then we must go where they dance tango, and then the pugilato, the box. And then there are some personaggi, people, character, that you see all the time. One is Angelo. Angelo is the old man standing, sleeping. He is like una cosa che torna sempre.
Recurrent theme.
Yes. And Mario loved Angelo very much. Angelo lived in a roulotte, in a car in Monti. And when the car broken, the president of Repubblica Italiana, Giorgio Napoletano, our president, who also lived in Monti. He lives in the Palazzo of Quirinale, but the house private is in Monti. When the car of this old man was too old, the president changed it for him. It was an official thing. And so all this character, you are right. I saw the 4 minutes of the big deal of Madonna Street because we decided to put together. And then Monti, and now I know what you said, that they were always the same people of Mario.
So they were like archetypes, right? That he singled out, and even in the documentary, you see that there is a story behind each of them that could become one of the many stories that Mario told in about 60 films, right? If I remember correctly, it's one of the more or less one of the more prolific directors of Italian cinema. And I would like to ask Lorenzo Codelli, who is the deputy director of the Cineteca del Friuli and the film critic, who wrote monographies not only about Monicelli, but also about Ermanno Olmi, Francesco Rosi, Stanley Kubrick, Tinto Brass, the Taviani brothers, Marco Tullio Giordana, Pupi Avati, and many others. So I would like to start asking him, Monicelli is considered and celebrated, and rightly so, as one of the great masters, probably the 3 great directors of comedy Italian style. So what makes him part of this very large category, and what sets him aside also from the other directors of his generation and of that very peculiar genre that is comedy Italian style?
Well, is a long story. How to make it short? Since I was very friendly with Mario Monicelli, but I had a chance to become, by chance, not by, also very, very good friend of Dino Risi, who passed away very, very few years back. And of course, I am very friendly with Ettore Scola, who's still alive and who last year did a great, not a documentary, a film about his friendship with Fellini. Well, and of course, thanks to Mario Monicelli, I don't want to tell about myself, but it comes by itself. I became friendly, for instance, with Ugo Tognazzi, one of the leading comedians. I became friend, certainly much less than Chiara, but also with Mastroianni, who was playing in many comedies, including Mario's, one of 2 or 3 greatest comedies. Well, it's very hard to sum up a process. As you know, Italian cinema restarted immediately after the war with neorealism, but in the same time, with the neorealist social drama, social engaged films, also there were some extremely popular comedies. For instance, Totò comedies. You saw Totò playing the old man who teaches the other would-be robbers how to unlock a safe. Well, Totò was, before the war, was already a star in the comedy theater, but also he started his film career before the war. By the way, even Monicelli started not directing films, but he was an assistant director before the war. How he became assistant director? Because he won an award in a university film competition. So even before the war, Monicelli was already active. He did a couple of shorts and he assisted important major directors. After the war, immediately after the war, there was a boom in the film industry. Neorealism one side, popular cinema on the other side. Popular cinema included not just comedies, which was already a top genre, but also melodramas. Melodramas meaning weepies, or meaning dramas who made people cry. Totò.
Public is now familiar with that genre because the Criterion Collection released 3 years ago a box with 4 films with Matarazzo was the great
Raffaello
director.
Matarazzo.
Raffaello Matarazzo, Catene, with Amedeo Nazzari, films where you cry from the beginning to the end, and people considered them successful when they cried a lot. So these are all the sort of sub-genre, but it's very important. You're helping us recreating the fresco of what Italian cinema was like. We are too used, especially in this country, to think about Italian cinema in the 40s and in the 50s, basically only as neorealism. Because, of course, it's the most important phenomenon, it's the most important movement.
No doubt.
It's the one that lives more in terms of heritage to other filmmakers, but it was definitely one small part of a much larger fresco.
Because it's very hard to translate, for instance, comedies. Totò, even in this small scene, he speaks, of course, in this scene Italian, but he was specialized in speaking in Neapolitan. That is very hard to understand. Even at that time, the best comedians of the after-war were speaking in their own dialect, not just Totò, many others. And Mario Monicelli, he started co-directing a few very popular hit comedies together with Steno. They did, I think, 8, 9 films together. Steno, who's also a master of popular comedies, he started in drawings, in comic drawings. There were several before and especially after the war in Italy, very, very many magazines with short stories, comic stories, but also drawings. Let's say not the New Yorker, but in a way like the New Yorkers. There were many, many others. And Steno was a graphic designer, also an editor or co-editor of one of these magazines. And anyway, they started co-directing many films together. Why? Because they were so successful that they needed to do 2-3 films every year. Of course, one, Monicelli directed one, and the other one directed something. And anyway, it was a collaboration pushed because it was they were so successful. Anyway, the roots in the if you have seen Ettore Scola's last year film about Fellini, you see how Fellini himself, before the war, he started as a cartoonist, as a comedy. He wrote short comedy pieces for different magazines. Anyway, the roots of the Italian comedy styles are there, are certainly before the war and immediately after the war, with films, important Totò comedy, which did not travel. They did not travel abroad. Even in France, Totò was very little known, to say, even in Europe. Why? Because it's very hard to translate. Only when in the 60s and the 70s, the comedy, Italian comedy genre, Italian comedy style became worldwide popular, some of these old classic comedies started being released in France, in United States, but much, much later.
And there is a matter of fact reality that we all cry for the same things, whether we are American, Italian, Japanese, but we laugh for very different things. So it's much easier to export drama because you see an abandoned child, you cry. You see the poor dog that is left on the street, and you cry. And no matter where you are in the world, and whereas laughter is different. We have different sense of humor. We have different sensitivities. So you mentioned these actors like Totò and like Fabrizi and many others. They all, as you said, they all came from the vaudeville, from the Avanspettacolo and the Teatro Comico.
By the way, don't miss at Film Forum this and next week a classic comedy by Monicelli that's made in 1960, but it's starring Totò and Anna Magnani. They play contemporary characters, but their characters are rooted in their past. One is a comedian, Anna Magnani, who used to be famous, who would like to be famous, and the other, Totò, is also a folk comedian who tries in one only night. Is an extraordinary comedy set in one night. Is the New Year's Eve of 59, I suppose, since it was shot in 59, 60, released in 1960. Well, it's a comedy, I repeat, about today's Rome, but it's also rooted in their past of Totò, and Anna Magnani was a leading lady, I repeat, before the war. Anna Magnani was already popular on the stage.
And she also came from comic theater, from the vaudeville. She was a comic actress. So now we celebrate Anna Magnani as probably, Anna Magnani is the greatest actress ever of all times. My students make fun of me because every time I mention Anna Magnani, I say, Anna Magnani was the greatest actress of all times, period. But, we are used to associate her to the fantastic dramatic roles that she had. But her training was in vaudeville. She was supposed to go on the stage and make people laugh before the film started. So that's her training was a very hard one on stages that were not particularly friendly, especially if you were not a beautiful blonde lady and were showing your legs, as she wouldn't do.
Please have a look to the photograph there, which in Risate di Gioia is the only time that Anna Magnani was blonde with Ben Gazzara. We have a lovely photograph, real rare one, so please have a look afterwards.
Yeah, and the title translated into English means Laughters of Joy. That tears of joy. That also a contradiction in itself, because joy is also the name played by the character, but it's also joy. So it's a very dark and at the same time very bizarre comedy, even if Mario Monicelli did many very, very different comedies. I don't think there are two comedies by Mario Monicelli that are similar. You might find some, I don't know, Dino Risi's comedies that are more or less similar, not Mario Monicelli's.
Is that the film that you were referring to before? The one that you described, is that the one?
Risate di gioia?
Is
Are
that the one?
Yeah, it will be shown several times, a few times during this and next week.
I just want people to know that we're showing it as The Passionate Thief. So there are three titles, Risate di gioia, Joyful Laughter, but we're showing it, it is listed in our program as The Passionate Thief.
The Passionate Thief is the title by which... Very good.
Passionativo, ladro e risate di gioia.
That was the original American release title.
We're going to go back to Comedy Italian Style. There is a lot to say. But I want to move to Chiara. And you met Mario while he was shooting a film. And you happened to be on the set of that film. Tell us how it all started.
Oh, my life is very strange. Okay, I lived in Florence. I am from Florence. I was 19. And I was an extra to earn some money. I wasn't a student. I was working as an extra in theater and also in film. And this man came to Florence, Mario Monicelli. I didn't mind who he was. Because at that time we went to the cinema, we were young people, not because of the director. We really didn't mind who was the director. We only wanted to see the actors, I must say. So I didn't know who was this Monicelli. He chose me like an extra. And so I played in Amici Miei, My Friend. I don't know what is the title in English. It was a film with Ugo Tognazzi, with Bernard Blier, with Philippe Noiret, help me, Adolfo Celi and others. It's a comedy in Florence with strong irony, Tuscan irony. I was a girl, I was really 19, and maybe he fell in love with me, and me too, but I couldn't say to myself that it was a scandal, because we had 40 years of difference. I think the only couple in the world with 40 years. I know some who have 20, 26. I have a couple here tonight. But we were really different ages. So, I don't want to be long. I followed him in Rome. I was a student in Florence. We loved each other, but nothing happens because I was frightened. And when the film finished, he went back to Rome. And I asked my mother and father to go to study in Rome because I like Rome, but I wanted to follow him. And then we decided to live together. And I only remember one scene, which could be a film of Mario Monicelli. The day that I went to my mother, she's sleeping in the bed in Florence, sleeping in 3 o'clock, and I said, "Mama, I'm leaving Rome, and I want to live forever in. I want to go to Paris." "Why you want to go to Paris? When? Tomorrow? Why? You are going for university?" And I said, "No, I want to go there to meet Mario Monicelli." They knew that he was a great director. He said, "How nice, he chose you to be an actress." I was quite nice. And I said, "No, I want to live with him." And so I remember the color of the face that became the same color of the sheets. And so I thought she was going to die. I'm not joking. And before she did, I left. I went to Paris. Mario was in Paris shooting something. And I arrived to Paris for 1 month. And I didn't know anything of my parents. I didn't want to talk with them because I knew that in Florence, which is a little town, it was scandal. Everybody was talking about this. So we were rifugiati close in Paris. And then began my extraordinary life, because in Paris I had skirts and camicette and shirt, how you say? But I was really dressed in the wrong way, because we were out every day with Marcello Mastroianni and Catherine Deneuve and Depardieu, he was young, and Marco Ferreri was with us. And I just didn't say one word, because I thought to be stupid with these people so famous. I was just a 20 years old girl in a world so sparkling, come si dice? Sparkling, okay, glittering, and I was afraid of everything. And then we went to live together in Rome. Then my father and my mother became very, very friend of Mario. It's so funny that Mario called my father, same age, daddy.
And as you mentioned, you became friend with all the entourage of Mario. There were other directors, other actors. Did they get together outside of the set? Did they also had a regular friendship? Was there envy amongst them? They were in the same business. They were all doing films in different capacities. What were the interaction? What were the dynamics between these people?
It's so funny for me, because tonight in this place there is a big friend of mine. His name is Caterina Zapponi, and his husband Monty. I'm so happy to meet them again in New York, because Caterina here, she's the daughter of Bernardino Zapponi. Bernardino Zapponi was one of the greatest screenwriters. And he was one of the best friend of Mario, but again, he was an old man for me. I mean, he was part of this mondo di sceneggiatori. We also had Suso Cecchi D'Amico, Bernardino Zapponi, Arage Scarpelli. Maybe you American Bruce know, but maybe other people do not know how big they were. And they were friends. In fact, after an accident with a car that Mario had, very, very molto big accident, everybody, Mario and me and our daughter Rosa, she's now 26, but she was born, everybody went to live in Caterina's house that you see here, in Bernardino Zapponi, that was his father, and we lived 1 month all together in that house. And it's funny to meet in New York the daughter of one of the best friends of Mario. They were friends, everybody, no envy. Now in Italy, I don't know, in the States, in the cinema, in the world of cinema, is I hate you, I don't want to stay with you. Everybody hates each other and envy and things. At that time, they went together especially for one only thing. Also during the riprese, shooting, the only thing was eating. In Italy, also people of cinema, so important, Marcello Mastroianni, Fellini, and everybody. The most important question, even if they are shooting, is where do we go to eat? And for lunchtime, everything stops, even you are shooting the most incredible scene. And maybe only one thing I say, which is an anecdote, a little story. Borghese Piccolo Piccolo, I don't know the name in English, is a film, the only dramatic film that Mario shooted. Interpreters, Shirley Winters, very big American. And Alberto Sordi, I know if you know Alberto Sordi, he's the greatest. And they were shooting, the scene was very dramatic, very, very dramatic. Blood, and they were the parents of a guy who was a killer. The same scene, very dramatic. I remember I was 22. To prepare themselves to the scene, Shirley Winters here and Alberto Sordi there waiting to the chuck. Shirley Winters need a registratore in the bra.
A recorder, tape recorder?
Yes, here. She put a tape recorder hidden here with Yiddish songs. And so they began the technique, said, okay, so then she had something in the ear to hear. And very, very long time, she cried because she remembered her history of Jewish. In the same times, while she was waiting to be sad and begin the scene, Alberto Sordi was sitting on a chair, eating a panino con la mortadella, a sandwich with salame, very, very calm. And he was waiting, Shirley Winters, very respectable. And then Chuck, the two actors start the same scene, the same dramatic scene, one coming from one school, the other one coming from the school of Mortadella. I'm sorry. But he was very big. They were two big actors.
Grazie mille, Chiara. Lorenzo, let's go back to comedy Italian style. One of the features of these films, and it's a category that embraces many directors, many decades. There is still today some film that could definitely be included in that category. But one of the features is that it's never comedy only to make you laugh. There is always a social element, an element of social criticism. Very often it's politically engaged. And Monicelli is one example of these comedy that, according to the best ancient Roman tradition, castigat ridendo mores. It chastises the wrong costumes, but laughing, not in a serious way.
Sure.
And
well,
tell us something.
Yeah, before answering your question, I just wanted to remind you that a couple of years ago, Chiara published her autobiography. It's called in Italian La bambina cattiva.
Buona.
Sorry. But I was remembering the opposite because is a joke. Is of course she's not the good girl. She's well, anyway. She wrote a very, very, very nice book, and some of the anecdotes she just told you, there are many, many more, of course, because she had and of course is also her experience before, of course, meeting Mario when she was very, very young. Well, to answer your question, let's start from a recent film that you probably have seen, La Grande Bellezza, The Great Beauty, by Paolo Sorrentino, who won the best film for foreign film this year. Well, it's a comedy. I don't know if Mario would have liked it or not. I don't know, but certainly it is in that tradition. It is in my way a satire of contemporary way of life or contemporary life from a perspective, of course, of a young, quite young director, but is a director, Paolo Sorrentino, who did before other very peculiar comedies. So I think that Paolo Sorrentino, like Monicelli, Risi, or Scola, he likes to put many comedians in small roles. In La Grande Bellezza, even in very small roles, you find Neapolitan comedians, Roman comedians, especially, for instance, Carlo Verdone, who's a big comedian and director himself. he plays in La Grande Bellezza, he plays the would-be writer, the failed writer, the one who would like to become successful writing a play that at the end he plays in his own play. Well, just to say, Mario Monicelli, like other of his colleagues, they like to discover new faces, new comedians. There are dozens of examples for Mario. Just one, Claudia Cardinale. Claudia Cardinale, she was discovered by Mario Monicelli in I Soliti Ignoti, that means Big Deal and Madonna Street. And then, of course, she played a small role, but a very important female role in that comedy. And immediately she became a star. In 1 or 2 years, she played in 10 films every year for a few years. And she's still well and playing in French and Italian comedies today. Well, it was a very, how you say, fertile period, the 50s and the 60s. These comedy directors like Mario were having the chance of today's, let's say, if you would like to know what's about, but is Paolo Sorrentino one of the many interesting directors? Unfortunately not. Paolo Sorrentino, in my modest opinion, he's an exception. There are very few others who in a few years did almost one film every year. To do one film every year is almost impossible, even if you are rich and famous. In Italy, you don't do more than one film every 2, 3, 4 years in this context. At that time, Monicelli and others, they did exactly more than one film every year. Not all were successful. Mario Monicelli did some flops, but he did some big hits, and so he went on and on and on. One more, not anecdote, but memory of what Chiara was saying and about people who like to meet after work. There was for many years, I remember still in the 70s and 80s, I was there. They used to meet, I think, every Monday evening at Trattoria Otello, a small eatery that's still there, is in Via della Scrofa, in Via della Croce, near Trinità dei Monti. Otello is still there, and they used to meet not just friends, colleagues, but it was the Monday for filmmakers. They told me, I'm not sure if it is true, that after the war, when they were all starving or trying to survive, etc., Otello gave them almost free meal, and every Monday or once every week. So that's why this tradition started when they were very young, very starving, and that went on, I repeat, until the 70s, maybe in the 80s, different, and Fellini was one of them, by the way. Fellini was living for most of his life in Via Margutta, that also maybe a few blocks from this Otello.
Can I say, on Otello, he talks about real cinema, I talk about stupid things. Otello, it's so funny, when Mario was very old, and also the people who went on to go every mercoledì era Wednesday night. If you went to this restaurant, you could find all the people of cinema, but they were old because. And once Mario and me decided to go. Let's go to Otello tonight. So he opened the door and he saw Scola and everybody sitting on only one table. Not many tables, only one table with all the Italian cinema seated, but they were old. But Mario was older than everybody. He was, I don't know, 90 something. So he opened the door. I was with him. He saw his friends and said, "No, too many old people. Let's go." And we went.
Chiara, non tieni il microfono. I want to continue with this conversation about the fact that Monicelli's films have this sort of very important political, social element. And especially, I would like to make the connection between one of his most important films, La Grande Guerra, that is running at Film Forum, and one of his last films, Le Rose del Deserto. There is also a film about war, and you were involved in the making of Le Rose del Deserto. Tell us something about Monicelli's pacifism. He was a very politically engaged person. He was a socialist. He was very socially aware. He would participate in worker strikes. He would support the cause of working people. And he had this particular strong element of anti-war convictions that comes up in several films of his career, and in particular in these two that are sort of two bookends. Tell us something about that.
You said quite everything. He was a pacifista, and in the Great War, the title is Great War?
La Grande Guerra.
Bruce, what is the title of Grande Guerra? Great War. You will see, I shoot it da lui.
Sì.
You will see the Great War in the Grande Guerra. And then if you see that film, which is absolutely a great film, you will see how he saw his vision of soldier and people sent to die without even know what for they went. And it was a vision of Italian soldier coming from many different parts of Italy, who really didn't even know why they were suffering what they suffered. So in La Grande Guerra, the Great War, you can see what Mario thinks of militarism. In this film, this is the book I wrote, because I follow Mario in this film as a journalist comic. So I just sat in a part and drawing what I saw with my eyes. And this is about the war of Libya, Libyan war. And Mario wear in this film una military coat. And he became like a general shooting the film. And in this film, in the desert, 3 months and a half, 50 degrees up.
Celsius.
I don't know how centigrade sono. Everybody was ill because it was really hard to live in this set. There are many photographs about the desert, I'll show you. And the only one who was okay was Mario. Mario was 93. He didn't drink, and if you don't drink in the desert, you die. He didn't want to drink, he didn't die. And that was a great experience, how Mario was strong and he liked to be in a very difficult situation. But also the film was against the war, against the power. And not only wars, but also before dying, our country was so spoiled. Berlusconi and everything, you know, Berlusconi, and the politics and the social things were so ruined. Also Monti. What you saw in the documentary was, it's very funny because I see it again after many years tonight. You see that it's like being in a little paese in Sicily or in Umbria. It's Rome. So it's not a little country, it's an enormous town, but we lived in that place in this, like in a village. And that's why Mario loved to live in that place, because that was un posto vero, authentic, and he hates the hypocrisy of the politic and he hated Berlusconi. He wrote against Berlusconi. And once there was an interview to Mario on Corriere della Sera, a newspaper, in which Mario said how he was ironic, okay, how I loved fascism. He said the fascism was better than Berlusconi, so it was incredible. Come dire, quanto mi manca. I miss fascism. And so, you know, Berlusconi hated him, he hated Berlusconi, and one of the desires of Mario was to die in this way. Then he died in another way. And both dramatic, but what he wanted to do, and he didn't do, was, and he asked me to help him, to buy tritolo. You know what is?
Explosive.
Explosive. Kilos and kilos. Then he wanted to fill himself of tritolo. And no, but not to suicide. Then he suicided again. But no, he said, I want to go to see Berlusconi and I said, but how can you go into the parliament? He said, I want to send a letter to him and say, I'm so sad because I was so bad to you in my life, and I want to
make it up to you,
to be forgiven from you. And so they will let me in, and when I am in front of him, I will die, but I don't mind, I'm so old, but everybody will die. So ironic, I mean, don't think that he was a killer, but, and so he was against all this power, Italian power, hypocrisy, and the most horrible Vatican. I'm not talking about Catholics, but in Italy, the power is so strong. Mario was with the part of poor people, but really, it was not with movies, being a director. No, he occupied when he was 93. There was people without work, disoccupati.
Unemployed.
No, unemployed who occupied la loro fabbrica, the factory. And Mario wanted to stay with them. He stayed for one night in January with blankets. And after a while I said, Mario, stop, you cannot stay the night outside. He said, oh, go, you are so old. He said to me, you can do nothing. And so remained until the alba, the sun shining, and he wanted to stay with poor people. That's why people love Mario, not only because he was a great director, and but because he had, he was very a big culture. He read and read and read and read. Jean-Paul Sartre and Mario were together once in a house in Rome many years ago. I wasn't with Mario. And they met, Jean-Paul Sartre and Mario, and they make a struggle about who knew more French literature. And Mario won. So he was a very cultured man, and music too. He was he knew a lot about jazz. I'm talking about with Monty, and that's why people remember Mario, because he's a complete man. One part was cinema, a little.
Thank you, Chiara. I think we can open up the floor if you have any questions for our guest. Yes.
I was in Rome many years ago, and I used to like to go out to eat dinner. And in those days, you didn't go out to eat dinner and then go to a movie, or go eat dinner and then go to the theater or such. You went out, you spent the night eating dinner at the table. And I have Facebook friends, and they tell me that doesn't happen anymore. That's changed. And I have something else that's not a question, but there is a Pastoria di Roberti's on First Avenue here in New York. They were established in 1904. They're going out of business either next week or the week after it. And for me, it's like a death in the family. And I just want to urge people to go over there before it closes, because it's a
Thank you. No, the gentleman is saying that when he used to go to Rome, he remembered people did not have plans after dinner. The plan was dinner. And he was asking if things are changed.
No, a little bit, but in Italy never changed, because eating for us is just to stay together. We are not eating because we are fat. Eating means to stay around the table and take your time and talk and be friends. Food is very important for sociality, and we still have this, maybe a little bit less, but we still, this is an Italian style to live, very good, very sano anche.
Healthy, yes. Yes.
What kinds of husbands and fathers?
Husband, you know, Mario was so ironic, and so he always mi stupiva sempre.
He always amazed you, surprised you.
He had surprised me always until the day before he died. That's why it was a good husband. For any other thing, terrible. He couldn't do nothing except cinema. So he was a good director, but I didn't mind because he couldn't do nothing. He didn't know what was una bolletta da pagare. He didn't know how to pay in bank. He didn't cook. He couldn't do nothing. And I was like a geisha, servant and secretary. I should earn a lot of money to do this job, because he said, I don't want secretaries. I don't want anybody, because it was me who did everything. As a husband, worse, because when Rosa, our daughter, was piccola, and when she was very little, we were in their house, and he wasn't a good father when she was a little girl. When she was big and began to talk, they began friends, because he liked adult people. And when he was old and Rosa was 20, I was very happy, because the father and daughter screamed all the time and talked about cultural books. I like this book, the cinema. And when I came and said, let's go to eat dinner, they said, go away, we're talking. And so they were friends, but she was bigger. And Rosa has problem now and before, now that he's dead and before, because he was such a strong personality. You will see my work at the entrance, which is like a sheet with a drawing, which represents very well, I hope, Mario, very strong, and me, sit down with this shadow. And so maybe now I can talk alone, because I'm in New York, and so thank you to Mario that I can talk without him. He's looking at us.
And Chiara, and you wrote your book after Mario died, right?
Which one? La bambina
buona.
La bambina buona. Yes, I was writing it. He died, and I finished. And part of my book is about the death of Mario. But always I am Tuscany. In Tuscan, the irony is the first thing. My father and my mother, and we were uniti dalla ironia. So the first part of the book and the second, even if there is the death of Mario, everything, always there is a laugh. Like all the film, much better than me, all the films of Mario, even when you cry, after he stopped the crying and make you laugh. Because he hated the drama, come si chiama, sentimentalismo. He hated, and he used to say, never scene madri, only scene figlie. How to translate?
Scene madri, it's like the mother scene. It's the scene where the drama unravels in a piece, in a theatrical piece. But it's an Italian expression, scena madre, because it's the mother
You don't
scene.
have in English?
I don't think
It's like a Yiddish expression, actually.
Really?
It's Yiddish. No, it's sort of the same. It's,
How you say in English?
well, I guess, how would you say it? You would say it, let the mother shine, put the scene on the mother?
No,
No,
not necessarily.
no.
It's within the play, it's the most important scene because it's the scene in which the drama unravels.
When they
It's
kiss, when
explicitly.
the war,
You would
the
say,
main.
it would say the main scene, but in Italian we say la scena madre. Of course, that says a lot
The mother
about
scene.
we Italians and our mothers. But Mario said, I don't want scene madri, I only want scene figlie. I want daughter scenes, no mother scenes. Yes, Marilyn.
I was just wondering what year that documentary was filmed and how the quarter has changed. You mentioned that it had changed over.
Sì.
The 2006, and last year that Monty was so happy living, and afterwards, and then Mario died also. Now Monty, I still live there. If you come there, you will love it because it's so original and full of life. My studio, you saw my studio maybe? No, 2008. Did you see my studio for 1 second? That Mario said only 1 second because we cannot show you things. Everybody would think bad. And but maybe you see that colored chairs and think it's my studio. After change, in this moment we have in Italy, but I stopped talking about this, a lot of malavita, of mafia. And also in the center of the towns in Italy, the mafia came up from Naples and Sicily. It went in the historical center because the mafiosi people bought the houses and the shops. And this is a problem all around the world, but in Italy it's going up. It's not Sicily anymore or Camorra. Vaticano, I think, is the biggest mafia, but I cannot say
Your video recorded. Chiara, now going back to the Tuscan element that you mentioned, there is this very interesting story that if you look up Mario Monicelli in an encyclopedia of cinema or anywhere else, most of the times you find that he was born in Viareggio. And for the longest time, people have thought that he was really born in Viareggio. Turns out that he was actually born in Rome. And he did nothing to change this rumor. Actually, he liked the idea that people thought that he was
He's a liar. He was a liar.
Yeah.
He liked to say that I am from Tuscany, but he was not.
But then he wasn't from Tuscany, but he chose a Tuscan woman. And,
No, but he lived a lot in Viareggio.
but he had this Tuscan sense of humor, sort of rough and
Absolutely.
tagliente, no?
Absolutely.
It's not at all the Roman sense of humor. It's
Yes, we say in Italy that Roma more Tuscan is the best spirit and language. The best Italian language is spoken by, we say, Romano, il Toscano in bocca romana is the best lingua in Italiano. And so Romani are very ironic, very, very sympathetic people. Fiorentini are very cattivi, naughty, and very ironic. So he was a mix of the two cultures.
Alexa Van Dyke.
I wanted to ask you something like, we were talking about two great things, like a great war and great beauty. And as an insider, how do you think like the cinema, the Italian cinema changed or decay so much to go from something like a masterpiece like The Great War to something like The Great Beauty?
This, I don't know how to answer. I can just answer with an episode. The Great War was an enormous hit, won the Golden Lion at Venice, and it was produced by Dino De Laurentiis, the top producer of that time, who stayed the top producer in Italy and then in Hollywood for all of his life, practically. The last film, I'm not just talking now about La Grande Bellezza, I'm talking about Le Rose del Deserto, Monicelli last film, that was shot 5 years ago. Quando è stato girato? 2006 or 7. Anyway, it's already a lost film, believe it or not. We wanted to screen it. The producer, come si dice, ha fatto fallimento immediatamente. Went bankruptcy even before finishing the film. So Mario was not paid, enormous. Anyway, the film is no more. The film is literally no more. So that gives you an idea of an important filmmaker who worked with the biggest producer of the 50s and 60s, and his last film is impossible to find because the rights are no more in any hands, the prints are lost, etc. Well, for which concerns La Grande Bellezza, is also an extraordinary event. Why? Because it was a major co-production with France. The budget was maybe 10 times bigger than the usual contemporary film in Italy. And of course, it was extremely ambitious. That's a very long script. It was originally 3 hours long in the first edition. Then it was, because times change, because television mentality, television producer, television, how you say, screen ruled the Italian cinema for too many years. So I repeat, in my opinion, not everybody's opinion, Sorrentino is a good exception, or not the only one, but we have a few exceptions. But the rule, unfortunately, is unexportable films, cheap comedies, cheap everything. First, many, in Italy we have, I don't know, let's say 100 first works every year, but it's the first and the last, as Ettore Scola said in a famous comedy, The Terrace, meaning that these filmmakers will never do another film. Maybe they will start a career in television or in other media if they are very, very lucky, but to make a career in cinema, in film today is almost impossible.
I know that the comment right now was, thank you, Alexa, for talking about the Grande Bellezza. I mean, regardless of what people thought of it in Italy, or the opinion was, well, Mario Monicelli made wonderful films, and Sorrentino made La Grande Bellezza, which people in Italy may or may not have liked. I like to think that Americans really did appreciate La Grande Bellezza, and I like to think that that's a wonderful thing for Italy, even if certain people in Italy didn't appreciate it. I mean, we have to also remember that Paolo Sorrentino made Il Divo is a masterpiece, I think, and so many other films that he's made have continued to be great exports for Italy. And Luce Cinecittà just showed an incredible group of films in Los Angeles that included Capitale Umano, the human capital of Verzi's, which is amazing. I think it's a film that anybody in this audience would really appreciate seeing. So I do think that great films are continued to being shown. There were 10 new films shown in Los Angeles now, made from Italian filmmakers. But regardless of what you think of La Grande Bellezza.
Thank you, Sally. No, and as it very often happens, Rome Open City was not a hit in Italy when it came out. Yeah. It was a complete flop. And then people lined up around the corner in New York to see it. And then the Italians reconsidered it. And of course, in that case, there were historical reasons. They came out of the war. What they saw in the street was what they saw in the theater, and they had enough. They'd rather go see Catene with Amedeo Nazzari and cry for the desperate, impossible love of the woman who became a nun because she thought that her cousin left and he was still there. And then it's a reconsideration. Even neorealism was not immediately successful. And you're right, I wouldn't be so pessimistic about the state of present cinema. On this very stage, Gabriele Salvatore, a few years ago, in one of the round tables that we have when the directors come for Open Road, said, the problem with contemporary Italian cinema is that it had due genitori ingombranti, two oversized parents, and the father is neorealism, and the mother is comedy Italian style, la commedia italiana. And when you have two parents like that, it seems that what the hell are you gonna do to be better than Fellini, Rossellini, Monicelli, Rosi, and so on and so forth? So let's be a little patient with our contemporary Italian directors. There is some anxiety of influence dealing with the giants that preceded them. And I think definitely one of those giants is Mario Monicelli, and we were very fortunate to be able to start the New York celebrations for Mario. He would be 100 years old?
He's 2015, in 1915, so
next year
centenario.
it's the centennial.
And we are, this is the first time with Bruce and Film Forum and Stefano Albertini that maybe are beginning the celebration is a horrible word, but of Centenario di Mario. And all over the world we will go in South America and in a lot of places because people still love him a lot.
And I would like to thank Lorenzo Codelli and Chiara Rapaccini. Grazie mille.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And remember to check out the schedule of the films at Film Forum. Filmforum.org is the website. I think a lot of the films are sold out. There is a lot of interest for it. You can still find ticket, Bruce? Great. So Friday, the Friday after Thanksgiving is when the retrospective opens at Film Forum. It's an incredible occasion to see many of the films of Monicelli that are not available in DVD and you cannot see in any other way in this country. So take advantage of this possibility. Before leaving, have a drink with us and take a look at the photographs and at the works of art by Chiara. Thank you.